to BizTech's APAC Cyber Security Show. Every week, we update the region on the latest threats and incidences to help you protect yourselves better. Today, as always, is our regular co-host Benjamin Ang, who is the head of Cyber and Homeland Defence at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at the NTU. Now, Ben, welcome to the show as well.
Hey, thanks for having me back again, Brian.
Now, Ben, for a start, let's have a look at this news story where the US is deploying more cyber forces abroad to help combat hackers. Now, why are they doing this, and why is it then deployed out of the US?
Brian, this is because the US Department of Defense has a policy which is called hunt forward. So they're not just fighting off cyber attackers, but they're actually going into other countries, invited by allies into other countries' networks to repel hackers that are going through other countries and
Okay, so
helping.
essentially they're pushing, to use a defensive terminology, they're pushing the perimeters of defense outward.
Yes, and here's an interesting question. What is defense and what is attack? I think that's a very fluid question as to what they're going to be doing to get rid of the hackers which are in allies network.
Now, on a different note, though, China has called out the US for being the biggest stealer of secrets. That's kind of ironic, right? But tell us about why that's the case, especially in the light of recent events.
Well, this is so ironic, it's almost funny, right? The US and China both accusing each other of spying. This is because of the Discord papers. And they're called the Discord papers because some low-level US soldier actually leaked a bunch of US intelligence papers onto Discord to show off to his friends on his Discord server. So here's a reality check for everyone. All major powers conduct espionage, including cyber espionage. The papers in the Discord papers actually was evidence that the US has been conducting espionage and cyber espionage as well on its allies. So don't assume that any technology from any country is inherently safer or less safe than that from any other country. Assume it's all risky. So you have to protect yourself. Use a VPN, use two-factor authentication. If you have very sensitive info, password protect it. Get encryption tools. Yeah. So the other thing we learn is that even if you trust a certain country and you don't mind them spying on you, you don't mind them spying on you,
Yeah.
remember that they also have staff and they also have junior staff. And these staff can either accidentally or intentionally leak your data. So it comes back to protect yourself.
And that's a really critical thing because this is done by some 21-year-old soldier or something, right?
Yes, that's right. On Discord, goodness.
So now, on a different note, then we go over to the fact that governments are really taking cybersecurity more seriously, even countries that you wouldn't think so, countries like Vietnam. So Vietnam has now issued a decree on personal data protection. What's that all about, Ben?
And I give Vietnam a lot of credit. They are very serious about cybersecurity, and it really shows that more and more countries in this region are taking cybersecurity and data protection more seriously. So I want to advertise last week's episode, right? We talked about how businesses all over Asia need to take note that there are legal consequences if they don't secure their data.
Yeah.
And some countries are going to impose penalties. Better check. And well, the good news is some countries offer free resources for small businesses. The Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, for example, gives things like internet hygiene portal where you can, as a small business, you can use some free tools. And there's also businesses can take legal steps to reduce their risk. So I would say for more details, check out last week's episode.
Yeah, and not only last week's episode, but also check out what Singapore is doing to help out its SMEs. Because I think, Ben, you've just highlighted a very important thing that governments need to help smaller organizations protect themselves because the larger organizations have the resources, the smaller organizations have a knowledge deficit and also a resource deficit.
Smaller organizations, please do not throw your hands up and give up. There are free tools available from the government and also vendors who can help at not that heavy a cost. And it will save you a lot in the long term.
Okay, so Ben, in a Singapore context, where do we get help from if I'm an
I would,
SME?
I would say get it from the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore's website. There's all the free tools there that you can help to use to
Okay,
train
and
your
what's
staff.
the URL for that?
csa.gov.sg.
All right, that's excellent. That's excellent tips, Ben. Now, speaking of excellent tips and getting more knowledge, we're gonna have on the 9th to the 12th of May, um, Black Hat Asia, which is happening in Singapore. Now, isn't this where cybersecurity professionals go and mingle and get the latest up-to-date knowledge from each other?
Absolutely, Brian. I've learned a lot from the last Black Hat that I attended because there's lots of briefings, lots of new developments. You hear from lots of different experts. So you're not just hearing from one vendor, but from different experts that they fly in. And of course, lots of network building to be done.
Now, on that note, Ben, that's it for this week's APAC Cyber Security Show. Thanks for coming on the show, Ben. We've been speaking to Benjamin Ang, Head of Cyber and Homeland Defence at the Centre of Excellence for National Security at the NTU in Singapore, on BizTech's Asia Pacific Cyber Security Show. I'm Brian Fernandez. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. It'll also be on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.